Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But everything
Yeah.
should run smooth.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. We're going to get started again. I know you're still eating and still fixing your plate. Please continue to do that. But this is going to be a working lunch. So please continue to enjoy the beautiful and delicious meal that Trios has provided to us. And we are going to continue on. Yes, thanks again, Trios. And so next, we are going to hear from Jimmy Wright. And Kevin mentioned Jimmy Wright and sang his praises earlier. We're going to hear from the man himself. Jimmy Wright is another person that we talked to during the former governor's food desert working group meetings via Zoom. After that meeting, we knew we wanted to talk more with Jimmy about his various models, which you will hear from here shortly. Now, one of the things that struck me the most about his work was the fact that he sold to a small Black-owned grocery store in Atlanta, Georgia, and that was having problems staying in business because of the high prices from their distributors. Jimmy's support for that particular store helped them stay in business. So at this point, I'm happy.
Which is next door to Auburn. And so we are the only state in the union that when you go somewhere, you must identify yourself as being either an Auburn or Alabama fan. So I went to check in a hotel last night. Lady was very nice. She asked me for a photo ID. She looks at it and she goes, "Alabama." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Are you an Auburn or Alabama fan?" No, I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan a few weeks ago, same thing. So last night in particular was a little bit different. And I said, "Well, I'm a graduate of Auburn." And I said, "I actually do some work for Auburn University, live next door to Auburn University." I said, "But my daughter is a freshman at the University of Alabama." And so she stops. She looks up and she goes, "How did you let that happen?" And so there was a moment of awkwardness there where I'm like, I don't think she's going to let me stay at this hotel here, you know. My daughter is a freshman in Alabama and off to a great start. Well, we had an opportunity a few weeks ago to go up to a luncheon and we got to meet Coach Saban. And that was quite a treat, and especially for an 18-year-old freshman. We got our photos made. Well, if you had your photo made with Coach Saban, what are you going to do? You're going to share it with everybody you know. So, you know, we did that. So I've got an employee, one of my team members at my store, that is an off-the-charts Alabama fan. Red car, flags, everything you can think of. She is just rabid Alabama fan. So after Saturday's loss to Texas, I come to work and she goes, "Well, I hope you're happy." I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Whatever you did to Nick Saban, should you put a hex on him when you had your photo made with him?" And she said, "What have you got to say for yourself?" And I said, "Go Colorado." That's all. All right, enough of that. Let's talk a little bit about food access, security, and affordability. I want to take you on a little journey today on how we have used several different methods in order to address food security and access in our part of the world. Brick and mortar store that I operate and some other stores I just acquired. Our shuttle service, the supplier to other stores, which in this case is the Carver Market Group, and then e-commerce, both for local and rural models on that. Okay. My personal mission in life is centered around hunger, housing, and healthcare. Those are three things that get me up every day. I am in the grocery business and I make a living there, but that business allows me to fulfill the areas of mission in my life. In hunger, certainly my work in the food industry, and the things we do, and privilege and opportunity to share with you guys and learn from you all today. Housing, I am a firm believer in affordable housing. I serve as commissioner on our local housing authority board, and a lot of good work that we're doing in there. And healthcare. And in that particular area, serve on our foundation board of directors. We just built a $60 million cancer center, and we're about to launch a new psychiatric center, which is really a big need in our area. I am of the belief that every citizen deserves enough to eat, a safe, decent place to live, and quality health care if they become sick. And I stand by those, and that's what gets me out of bed every day. Right Food Solutions, that is a little consulting thing that I formed a couple of years ago. Had the opportunity over the last few years to do some really good stuff with some really great people out there. My focus is on, again, food access, accessibility, affordability, especially in our rural areas and in our inner city urban areas over there. Do some work for the Grocers Association in Washington, do some work for Auburn University. Had the privilege of working with Kevin and the folks with Hope. Have had the opportunity also to testify before both the U.S. House and the Senate Agriculture Committees and the U.S. House Small Business Committee. If you ever get an opportunity asked to do that, I would encourage you to do so. It is quite the experience to do that. I don't know if we have anybody from Kroger here or not, but the first time I ever did this was the House Agriculture Committee. So I don't know what to expect. We go in and all the House members are filing in and taking their seats, and a young lady from Kroger next to me, and I said, have you ever done this before? And she said, yeah. I said, do you get nervous? And she said, you can get a little rattled, I guess. Okay, so we start the thing. So if anybody have testified anywhere, got a little green button when you want to use a microphone and all this stuff. So they ask her to introduce herself, and she goes to press a button, and her hand is shaking so bad she can't get it on the green button. And I'm like, this is not good. I'm in over my head here. So I've had the privilege of doing some good work up on Capitol Hill, and I still believe in our country. I believe in who we are. We do have our challenges and issues and problems, but it is a great country and has afforded me a lot of opportunity, and I want to share some of that story with you today. All right, so we'll start first with my physical store Wrights Market and my online shopping business Right to You. And I share with folks the Right to You name. I was able to create that laying on the couch one night without having to enlist a Madison Avenue advertising company to do that. So that's kind of a little nifty name we came up with. Our physical store is in Opelika, Alabama, and that's a storefront on that. A little bit about it. My dad was a carpenter, and he built this little store. It was only a little bit over 2,000 square feet. And so he built it for a guy that had some other properties around. And when Dad got through building it, the guy said, hey, I don't have anybody to run this store. Would you and your wife, my mother, would you run it until I found somebody else? Well, that was in 1973, and he never found anybody else. So that's how I got into the grocery business at a very young age. It's had 3 expansions over the years. It's about 20,000 feet. I purchased it from my previous owner employer in 1997 and rebranded it as Wrights Market in 2003. Our brand pillars, I'm not shy about sharing my faith. I don't ram it down people's throats, so to speak, but it is who I am. And my vision is to honor God by making a positive impact on the lives of our employees, customers, and our community. Our mission is nourishing families and strengthening communities. We use food, but we want to make the lives of people that we serve better. The things we offer make sure a clean store, family-friendly shopping environment. We sell no alcohol. We sell no tobacco products. We don't do that. It's not, with all due respect to ones who drink or smoke or whatever, that's all fine. That's a choice people make. But it's just not something I want to contribute to. So we do not sell that. High quality, fresh foods, affordable prices, and we support our community. A few shots from around the store here. Here is the wall of values where we put a lot of our display items. We'll buy in bulk in order to keep those prices as affordable as possible for as long as we can. Very much a strong meat operator. It's almost 50% of our business is in fresh meats. I think someone, maybe Gloria was talking earlier about the Pick 5 program. It's a big part of who we are. So there's a few shots of our meat department there. Okay. We do try to focus on produce and healthy eating. We've got some initiatives to support that. And certainly we try to support all the local farmers that we can. All right, last year we received a grant, a Healthy Food Finance Initiative grant from USDA, and I'll talk about that one a little bit. We remodeled the store, we increased our fresh foods areas, added in some new meat freezers, new produce cases, and we introduced a prepared food department. A few shots, this is what we went to in produce. We went to behind the glass doors for more energy efficiency, and it has helped our shrink. It has helped our product quality to stay much, much fresher and longer, so it's been a good investment from those standpoints. Prepared foods, I have a lady, Miss Linda, that had cooked in our community at various restaurants over the years, and I'm not real sure what she puts in this stuff. It's all good. I just don't ask any questions, and she wouldn't tell me if I did. So we go from the left, from Miss Linda's banana pudding to some cakes, and then on the right is the famous hot chicken drumstick. And trust me, those things are good and they are hot. So we didn't enter into the prepared food business for the first time. We expanded our meat department. This allowed us to add much more frozen product, a lot of fish, seafood items, and a lot of bulk items. We were able to add a number of items that you would typically only find at Sam's Club or Costco somewhere. And that has been real good, especially for our SNAP customers, and the fact that they're able to buy in bulk and have those savings there. So it really been good. And also energy efficient, replaced some older freezers with this grant and did this. Okay. I had like 2 hours extra time in my week every week, so I decided that I would find something different, additional to do. So I went in with some guys and we bought 8 stores in Georgia to fill up that extra little bit of time I had there. These were former Save-A-Lot locations. They were owned by a gentleman out of New York who had worse than run them in the ground, so to speak. Facilities were good. They didn't have any inventory in them. They were down to no employees. So we've got some challenges there. We run the gamut from the Chattahoochee River on the west side of Georgia to the Brunswick, Georgia on the Atlantic Ocean and everything through there. So a lot of windshield time as of late. I think Rashawn was talking about Rick James Cost Plus format. We are changing over to that. So the employees were so thankful that we were there that we kind of pulled this one out and they were able to keep their jobs. But it's a new one and we're working through that and certainly keeping me busy on that. All right, so that's kind of what we do at Brick and Mortar. Again, we've been there for a long time. Those are some of the services we offer. We've been very fortunate to be successful for a long time there. We're involved in our community, all the things I shared. I want to take the next step from the store, and that was our shuttle service. Now, we stopped this during COVID, but it was always very effective for us. We've had some discussions this morning about transportation. I think transportation is a very viable option to improve access to food, and but not in the traditional models that we have looked at. I'll talk a little bit about what we face in Atlanta and what they had to start with and the wait for the bus and those things. So I think in here that there's a way to get customers from their home to our stores and back again. I can tell you that for the people that use this, the store was very much a sense of community for them. We had a little lady that we, she rode with us for years before she passed away, and she would stay in the store about an hour and a half. Now, she didn't buy very much. She stayed in the store so she could talk to people because she was at home by herself all day. And so we think about, selling food, but at the end of the day, we're all about relationships in there. And so this is, I think, as Kevin said earlier, this is a way I think that we can bridge e-commerce and a physical store in using transportation and be able to have both sides of that equation, so to speak. So this little photo of my employees. So this is a little retirement complex we have a couple miles from the store. The gentleman here had no transportation, so he'd call. We'd run, pick him up, and take him to shop, and then get him back home there. And so it was greatly appreciated. We've had calls for people that their parents live in town, they no longer live in town, and what a blessing this was to them to be able to have somebody, and also have somebody they can trust. And I'll stop here for a minute and I'll talk about that level of trust with people. And with all due respect to all the wonderful companies out there, retailers and third-party e-commerce companies, everything else, we use our own employees. The person who drives the shuttle or drove the shuttle, the person who picks the e-commerce order, they all work for us. And typically, these customers are going to see this same person time and time and time again. So that kind of addresses this quality issue. But also, we found that safety is also a big issue. And the fact that in our world today, unfortunately, do you just open your door up for anybody? And so especially the seniors, and we've had more people call us and tell us they were so comfortable with the people that came and either picked them up to shop or e-commerce. And so that's another big piece of this puzzle, this whole trust piece on there. All right, now on to online shopping and delivery. There's our whiz-bang delivery van, as Kevin talked about. All the graphics and all the things you can see in the back, same model I think that Gloria is using over in her area over there. Acquired this through a Healthy Food Financing Initiative grant from the state of Alabama, and it paid completely for this. We've got all the racking in there and all those things. So, we labeled it as the Right to You Freshmobile. So a little bit about that. We started in 2016. We are not on the main path through town. And so we don't have a lot of curbside pickup business. What we have is delivery. And what we have also seen is that it was, a completely different customer base, that maybe they were too far to shop for us, or maybe it was transportation or health or whatever. So really we were able to serve a different base than what was coming to our store. Back to the Online SNAP program, we were one of the 10 retailers originally selected to pilot Online SNAP. We were the first one-store independent in America to launch the program. The launch took 3 years. During that time, there was one of the technology companies involved in the process, got acquired by another technology company. We had a government shutdown, and not to mention just working through the program. So, but we were one of the 10. 2 of the other ones were Walmart and Amazon. And so we would have these conference calls, and so I'm on these calls and I'm like, I don't usually hang around with these guys, This is a little bit of different, so I just always wondered if in the boardroom in Seattle at Amazon, maybe they had a picture of me somewhere, like, who is this guy, So, but it's been very good for us. We were able to launch it. We finally launched Online SNAP 1 week before the pandemic started. So it couldn't have been better as far as more timely and all that. We were doing about 60 orders a week online then. We went to 60 orders per day on there. If it had not been for the teachers who were laid off during that time that I hired that came to our rescue, I'm not quite sure what we would have done. And so it was a terrible time for our country, but it was a blessing for us and our customers. We were able to launch that when it started. All right, now I want to move out a little bit further. So we've had our brick and mortar store. We've had us picking up folks and bringing them to the store and shopping our seller service. We've gone out a little bit further with e-commerce in the Opelika, Auburn area. Now I want to talk a little bit about rural delivery. And again, a program that Gloria and Chiquita have rolled out, and this is the one that we have done. Now, I'm piggybacking on Gloria's remarks. The challenge we have in the rural areas is the people's concerns with online shopping in general. Okay, so before this ever launched, I started making a little circuit there and talking to people in churches and things about this is what was coming and how it would work and all this. So I will never forget, I was in a church one Sunday and they had a service and lunch, and after that they had some speakers. Well, I noticed this lady from the sheriff's department there. So she gets up and she's before me and she goes, I want to talk to you all today about not buying anything online. She said, I want to tell you what can happen to you. And she goes down this thing. When she got through, I was scared. I'm thinking, I'm never buying anything online again. And there, so I'm thinking, I'm like, how in the world am I gonna? So I get up and I say, ladies and gentlemen, thank the deputy for being with us today. Don't believe anything she just told you. So, but it is a challenge there in order to get people to shop. They want to touch it. They want to see it. They want to smell it. They want to feel it. And it's back to this trust issue again. We would cut the meat especially for them to make sure it was the specifications they wanted before we delivered it. We sent the same guy every week down there. And so it is that trust level, but we still face the issue of their people, and the older we get, the more of a challenge it becomes for people to adapt this kind of shopping. But when they're paying $50 to get someone to carry them to the grocery store 30 miles away, you just have to kind of keep at that. Just keep that momentum going out there. You do need a champion. Okay, so on the left side, you see this group, not a very good shot there. That is a senior center located in a community about 30 miles south of there. And so they would gather, place their orders one day, and we would deliver the next day. And so it was a great community event. All the people came out. They would combine some healthcare checkups in there. And you also have to have a champion. And the lady on the right is the champion that we have there. And she is the one that continues to encourage people to do this, that it's safe, it's good. And if we ever do make a mistake, Lord help, she will address it with us, trust me. Just e-commerce and just connecting people in food. Do believe that it is a solution for areas that can't support a full-service grocery store. As Kevin said earlier, in the Drew area, we did extensive market studies over there, and they just are communities where the population density is not there to support a retail grocery store. To have volume to continue to turn those perishables and keep food fresh, to be able to run the store. And so it's just a challenge somewhere, and I think e-commerce continues to be a solution for that. We have found there are some efficiencies in delivering to one point of delivery, a central point of delivery. Allows us to hold some costs down. It's easier if the customer can't get 30 miles to the grocery store, maybe they can get 1 mile to their church, or in this case, 1 mile to their senior center. It does allow this customer to access all of our inventory. So everything we sell in our store is also offered online. So it's not like we just offer a fraction of that. They can buy anything that anybody else can in store. It is a more efficient, low capital investment than a brick and mortar store. If you build a brick and mortar store or you lease a building, you're there. If you spend $60,000 on a van and something happens, the program does work, that's much easier, entity to get rid of, if you had to, God forbid, than it is to try to get rid of a brick and mortar building there. So it is a little bit safer on that. Again, the barriers to technology and those things are something you just have to continue to work on. This is a little map of kind of what we have sketched out as a long-term strategy. All these green dots that you see here, or black dots, I can't see mine, are all senior centers. They're central points of delivery that we hope to be able to connect to and build this route. The same thing you're seeing, Gloria, and you get to do over in Mississippi over there. How can we scale this up to find some more efficiencies and find some ways to make this work for everybody in these areas over here? All right, now I'm going to take you out further. So we went from our store to a few miles around the store to 30 miles away. Now I'm going to take you 100 miles away. And so about, I think 2016, I had been up for my passion for public housing and affordable housing. I'd been up to Atlanta and visited with a group, Focus Community Strategies. Write that one down, because that's a great group. I would encourage you to look at. I think they're the best in the country at revitalizing neighborhoods. They started in East Atlanta, in the East Lake area of Atlanta, when it was known as Little Vietnam over there. Some of you may have heard this story before. The schools were terrible. The crime rate was unbelievably high. The unemployment rate was unreal. But they went in and they worked in East Lake in a very much a holistic approach. It was food, it was education, it was just not one particular thing that turned it around. Fantastic video called The Miracle at East Lake that CNBC did a few years ago. I think you'll find that interesting, but you had a champion. You had two champions. You had a gentleman from Atlanta, Mr. Tom Cousins was the developer who invested his money, and you had a champion that lived in the neighborhood. Her name escapes me right now, but she was the champion for that. And so when they interview her, and it's back to, I'm continue to go back to this trust thing. So when they interviewed this lady, they asked her what she thought about Mr. Cousins when he came in to do their neighborhood. And she said, why is this guy interested in my neighborhood? She said, he's sneaky. Well, after this was done, she came back and they said, what do you think? She said, I love that man. So it just takes time to build that trust. It takes time to be able to establish social relationships and work together to rebuild these areas. So this is Carver Market. This is in Atlanta. It's about 2,700 square feet. So when I got started over here, I felt like I was going back to my past, a little small store like we started with back home there. So I'd met these guys in this community development work, and they called me and they said, hey, we got a building and we want to open up a grocery store. I said, no, you do not want to open up a grocery store. And they said, no. So they were just adamant to keep on. So I went up and met with them. Let's see what this next slide is. So I went up and met with them. And this is what I discovered, that they had. This was 2,500 square foot store. It was a liquor store. Years ago, it was a movie theater when the community was vibrant over there. They do have a coffee shop. But when I began to listen to the story, they talked about the 333 food desert over there. And so to get food, to get a gallon of milk in South Atlanta, it was a 3-hour bus trip. You made 3 stops, and it was 3 miles to the nearest store, 3 bus stops, and the round trip was 3 hours just to get a gallon of milk. And this is in Atlanta, Georgia. And I can take you to the end of the street and hang a right, and we can be at Centennial Park and Olympic Stadium. So in that area, with those kind of resources, this city did not have a grocery store in Atlanta. So, I was driving back home, and the guys, what I admired the most, and this goes back to community groups and people being involved. When I was visiting with them that day, the guy that was going to operate the program said, can you go to lunch? I said, yeah. He said, will you drive? He said, my car battery got stolen. I said, yeah. He said, it gets stolen about every 2 weeks. And I'm like, and they live in the neighborhood. Everybody in this ministry lives in this neighborhood with these people. So I'm like, I do not want to get involved in this. I just think that, I got too much to do, so I'm driving home. So I said, Jeff, man, I said, you guys, I said, you got to get equipment. We got to get a supplier, all these things. So I don't know. And so I was driving home that day and I said, if these guys can live in this neighborhood and try to help these people and go through what they go through, I can figure out how to get groceries 100 miles from my store to their store. So I went back and I said, okay, guys, you have no supplier. You have nobody out there that's any interest in you. We can do the following. I said, you can buy through me and my wholesaler, very similar to what Sean's talking about, short term. I said, just for a little while until we sort this out. So the store opened in May of 2015. As of September of 2023, we're still short-term with them. We're working on that. So, but what a blessing of people to be involved in, okay? All right, this is what I want to share a little bit about the importance of a neighborhood grocery store and a community that supports it, and the people operating it being anchored in the community and the well-being of that community. This photo and the people on the left painting was taken on June 13th of 2020, 14th of 2020. On June 12th in 2020, officer-involved shooting in Atlanta resulted in the death of Rasheed Brooks, and a protest started after that. You may remember the Wendy's that was burned down as part of the protest. Protesters came around the street. We're only about a quarter mile from where that Wendy's was at, our store's at over there. They came, they busted out the windows of the store, but they didn't do anything else. What we discovered was the people that did that, they were not members of that community. They were people from the outside. Understood frustrations, their anger, but they were not people. So this photo, I think is the 14th. The people doing this painting are not store employees. These are community members. Before the store employees could even get there, the community came out. They boarded up the windows and they painted all these great murals on the store. And you saw the original picture. And that's what our store looks like today over there, all because of the community. That's when you know you built that trust. That's when you know that you've got the support of the community and they know why you're there. I think there is a fantastic video on this one that 60 Minutes did about this, what happened here, and about health issues and food access. I'd encourage you to look that one up and see it. Just a great story, fabulous people to work with. All right, we're about to start an initiative in Atlanta to try to get together all of the community stores over there. There's a total of about 20 that we're looking to find, and we've had some interest and some initial discussions of how we put these neighborhood stores together. How do we improve distribution to them? How do you improve affordability, accessibility? And I always tell people, those two things go together. Affordability and accessibility both go together. You can have it accessible, but if you don't get it at a right price, you only solved half the equation in there. So we're looking at how, besides Carver, these other 19 stores, we can solve the issue. It is a huge initiative from Mayor Dickens' office. You've seen the mayor of Little Rock behind this, and that's when it gets exciting, when people on the ground start getting that vision of what to do. So we have 20 that we're working at putting together. supply. We're looking at marketing, merchandising, training. Do we put these things under the Atlanta Community Store Network? All that is really new right now that we're working through, but we do see the ability to take what we have learned at Carver Market, how they anchor in that community, the trust they have built in community, the difference they make in that community, the safety they bring to that community, and take that into 19 other locations out there. We have done a market analysis to build a new Carver Market in Atlanta, about a mile and a half from where we are typically right now, located right now. And so we hope that can come to fruition. We're still crunching the numbers on that, but we hope that can come to fruition, and we're able to use that as a neighborhood store, prototype store. All right, starting to kind of recap a little bit here, and then we'll move into the grant world. So, pros and cons of brick and mortar stores. Certainly, the pros are, you get sales volume, you're creating things there, you got jobs you're creating in a community gathering space. Of the 2,700 feet at Carver we have, probably about 1,000 of that is Community Grounds Coffee Shop. And that is very much a gathering place in the community. That's the only place anywhere in that area where there's a place to come and have coffee. They have a large space for meetings, for groups. A lot of the community groups meet there. But it becomes, our friends at Starbucks coined the phrase, the third place. And so this Community Grounds Coffee Shop is the third place for people in this neighborhood over there. So again, and back to my example of the little lady who was staying in a store for an hour and a half and shop. The store is the heart of the community. The cons of a brick and mortar store, the challenges there, it does cost a lot of money to own a store, develop a store, operate a store. And then what happens if it doesn't work? Job loss, empty real estate. I'm talking a bit about getting a good market analysis. A couple examples out of Ohio. One, that these people got tons and tons of money. And they opened up one store and it failed, and they couldn't even get the other one opened up, and they had to sell the equipment off before they even got it opened up over there. So it's a really delicate balance here, and I'll talk a little bit about looking at that a little closer. Kind of pros and cons of e-commerce and mobile. Again, much less investment, able to serve a wider geographic area. The negatives, the challenges, technology barriers, that resistance of online shopping. If we do a complete mobile market, sometimes you have to get the item count down, and people not able to access that. E-commerce, you are able to offer that full inventory. Of course, we're thankful for all jobs that are created, but less jobs created in e-commerce than what you would see in a typical brick and mortar store. All right. So last September, had an opportunity to visit the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health. A really, really great day. It is, this initiative is being led by Ambassador Susan Rice, and also the first husband with Vice President Harris's husband. So the two of them are leading this initiative, and some really good stuff coming out of that. And out of this is become a lot of grant opportunities for retailers and communities to access. So, the initiatives that the president has laid out, improving food access and affordability, which is all about why we're here today. Integrating nutrition and health, talk about some of the incentive programs that we use, some of them you probably have seen. Empowering all consumers to make and have access to healthy choices. And for us, it's calling those items out in our stores to let them see, this is the better for you product. Supporting physical activity, a lot of work and a lot of investment being made in parks and trails and things to get people out doing some physical activity. And then the research. And fortunate that we've got so many good entities around the country that are great at research, because we've got to show where these things are working, the outcomes of this, so we continue to get these programs rolled out there. All right, so then a little bit about what's referred to as the grocery gap. Now I'll go back to what the president has laid out and the realities of where we are on the ground and how we can use some grant funding to close that gap. In rural America, as we know, the lack of population density becomes a challenge. That's what we saw in Drew. Just not enough people there to support the store. In urban America, maybe the neighborhoods have not been reinvested back into. Neighborhoods are declining. Maybe the income level is low in those areas. There's less disposable income. That's why you start to see some of the bigger box retailers exit these areas over there. Just not reinvested back in there to keep these neighborhoods viable like they once were for. Transportation, again, is a huge issue. We talked about, the bus routes versus some sort of shuttle service. Our industry operates on a 1% profit margin. So for us, volume is the key to sustainability. We must do volume in the supermarket to make the metrics work. And so that's why we've got to do as much business as we can in any shape, form, or fashion we can. So I'll move a little bit into some grants now. So you've seen what the president has laid out. You see the issues we face as we try to get stores or solutions in rural and urban areas. So a few grant programs here to share with you. Healthy food financing has been around for a bit. That one should have another round of funding in the fall. And you can get up to $200,000 to improve food access in underserved areas. A great program. The administrator of that is the Reinvestment Fund out of Philadelphia. Have worked with them. They are super folks, have an office in Atlanta now. And again, that next round of funding application is fairly simple. So I would encourage you communities to look at that. Just keep that on your radar screen. That one will be coming up pretty soon. One that we discovered this year that I think, and I'm back to a gentleman from USDA talking about the store in his area and the freshness of the products and stuff like this. You may have heard of the REAP program, which is a Rural Energy for America program. And this is the one that will allow supermarkets to access grant funding to offset some investments in some energy efficient equipment. That's where I think that rural America is really going to be able to get a better offering of stores out here, because so many places, if I travel the country, and the stores that we bought in Georgia are in pretty decent sized little towns, but I go through a bunch of towns in Georgia and the store's closed, and it's closed because the refrigeration is just worn out and the funding is not there. It doesn't make economic sense for somebody to reinvest back in this. So this is a way to really address that issue. It can be used to replace coolers, refrigeration, health and heating, air conditioning units. I would encourage you to look at that one. This one does require a match, but you can get up to $500,000. Okay, must be in a community, a population less than 50,000, and you have to have an energy audit done. Now, I have some people that I know that do this it's a nonprofit group that will do this study for you very, very affordably. But you have to show on the front end, this is the energy that was being used, and this is what I'm going to invest, and this is where our energy consumption is going to be on the backside of this. So a little bit to navigate on this one, not as simple as healthy food, but a really, really good program for rural America, especially in existing stores where some refrigeration upgrades need to be done. All right, nutrition incentives also. I think a lot of you here are probably familiar with the GUSNIP, the Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Program, better known as, in a lot of areas, as Double Up Food Bucks. We have been doing that in our store for a number of years now, offering that program. Shoppers get SNAP Shopper gets 50% off of produce. The new one coming out is the Produce Prescription Program, and I think maybe Rashawn talked about the food is medicine. That was a huge discussion at the White House conference, is how that food will continue to be part of our strategy going forward to address our nation's health problems there. So that one is good. Both of those are very solid programs. I On the right, we've got Healthy Fluid Milk Initiative, and this is where my friends at Auburn are administering this grant. In this one, the SNAP shopper receives 50% off the purchase of 1% in skim milk. There is some bills being introduced on the Hill to expand this to all forms of milk, and also yogurt and also cheese. So again, trying to get healthier eating, at the same time you're lowering the cost of shopping for the SNAP customer. Auburn University is administrator of this one. You must have a nonprofit just like the GusNIP. You must have a nonprofit partner to apply. But again, so many of you in the room could be able to do this. We have just closed the application period that Auburn made for the next round of funding. But if you have some interest in this program, then let me know something and we can start getting lined up for the next round of funding that comes along. But incentive programs, I think, are the future. Continues to be a lot of discussion in Washington about limiting the choices on SNAP. You know, you can get that. The challenge you get is that if I take you over to my popcorn section in my store, we have access to 67 different varieties of popcorn. Everything from triple butter, clog your arteries, guaranteed, all the way down to like, tastes like cardboard and everything in between. So the challenge for the retailer becomes, where does that stop? You know, where does it go from junk food to a healthy snack in there? And how do we take that across the store? You know, is Powerade okay, but is Gatorade not? And so a lot of debate about that. Also, big debate right now about offering hot foods on SNAP. You know, I think the convenience store folks are very much behind that. The challenge becomes, does that open the door for McDonald's and Burger King and people like that to be able to accept SNAP? And do we start going down that slippery slope? Again, you know, not to push either one of those programs, right, wrong, bad, or indifferent, but that's what's out there right now. I personally think nutrition incentives are the way that we can incentivizing people to do this much, much better than some of the other paths that we're looking at going down. And again, just some examples of how we have leveraged public and private partnerships in my own store, starting again in 2018 with the Healthy Food Financing Initiative from the state of Alabama, is how about the delivery van. 2019, we started our first, at that time it was FNSE, Food Nutrition and Security Incentive, and that was our first foray into Double Up Food Bucks. In 2022, we got another grant, received another grant with Auburn University this time. Last year started the Healthy Fluid Milk Initiative, and again, the Healthy Food Financing Initiative that we did before. All those are great ways to leverage private and public funding to address the issues that we're all here for today. Great programs there. So a few thoughts here. You know, brick and mortar stores are always the best choice, you know, if those numbers work. Pay for, if you're gonna go down this path, pay for a good market study. Don't take the strategy of build it and they will come. There are so many people that have gotten in trouble with that. Yeah, but we have the money. Yeah, but it won't work. So I just encourage you to think through that. E-commerce, again, is the most affordable, but the most difficult to get customers to accept. Okay, providing no cost or affordable transportation is a very viable solution to get customers to the store. I would encourage you to think about that. Again, not the traditional public bus model, public transportation model, but something more innovative than that. Leverage all grant funding, local, state, federal, and private foundation. And then most of all, partner with a great community group. Perfect example that we heard from this morning. What a great group and all this. Find a group that you can work with. The people that go into these rural communities and they go into these inner city communities, they go, we got this. No, you don't. You don't understand anything. I learned more in the city of Atlanta in 1 year that I learned in all my other 40-something years in the grocery business up there about people and what people think, and dignity and respect and trust. It is not an easy process to do. So find the people to go with you. Find somebody that's already working and support them and go from there. I heard a guy say one time, you go somewhere to build up, not to tear down. And when you go in somewhere and it doesn't work, or you make the wrong step, you made it even worse. The last thing you ever want to do is go in a community and make promises you can't keep. Things happen. Things go wrong. People understand that. But when you start off in the beginning with the wrong strategy, you're going to do more damage to that community than anything else you could have ever done. All right, anybody in here know Andy Andrews, the author, comedian, humorist? Anybody know Andy? Read his books, saw his videos? You know? Okay, nobody else? Good, okay. So real quick, I'll tell this story, and there's about a 9-minute video that Andy does that is much better than I could ever do, but I will give him credit for the story behind this. But there's something called the butterfly effect. And so this scientist named Edward Lorenzo in 1963 created something, or came up with this concept called the butterfly effect. And what he says is that a butterfly with one flap of its wings in Brazil, followed by all the right things that fall in place, could cause a tornado in Texas. How ridiculous is that? And that's what the Academy of Science told Dr. Lorenzo. Said, you're crazy. But it was interesting concept. In the 90s, some scientists came together and said, well, you know, wait a minute. This could really be possible if this fell into place and this fell into place and this fell into place and all that. So Andy tells a story that not only is it relative in that environment, it is very much relative with people. So he tells a story about a gentleman named Norman Borlaug. Anybody know Norman? Ever heard of Norman before? Okay. Norman Borlaug is credited with the hybridization of seeds that allowed corn and wheat to be grown in very arid temperature environments. Africa was one, Southwest America was one, but it allowed crops to be grown in a very, very, very dry environment. So Norman Borlaug is credited by allowing these crops to be grown. Norman Borlaug is credited with saving the life of 2 billion people through that concept. That's pretty cool. A guy can save 2 billion people. But wait a minute. So Norman Borlaug knew a guy named Henry Wallace. Henry Wallace was vice president of the United States under President Roosevelt. You say, wait a minute, Truman was vice president under Roosevelt. Roosevelt served 4 terms, and Henry Wallace was one of his vice presidents. Well, Henry Wallace came from the USDA. Henry Wallace saw what Norman Borlaug was trying to do, and he put Norman at a station in Mexico where Norman developed this concept. So really, it was Henry Wallace that saved 2 billion people, right? Not Norman Borlaug, right? So wait a minute. So when Henry Wallace was growing up, his father was a professor, and his father had this really, really bright student that loved growing things and was just into all the agronomy and all those things. The student name was George Washington Carver. Okay? And so Henry just became enamored with what all George Washington Carver was doing and all that, and just all the things you think about history and everything George Washington Carver did. Right? So really, it was George Washington Carver that saved 2 billion people, right? Wait a minute. Okay. A farmer from Diamond, Missouri rescued a little baby that had been kidnapped, and he rescued this little baby and he brought him home. He and his wife knew that this little baby's mother, and they committed to take care of this child and raise it because his mother was dead. Moses and Susan Carver raised a little boy and gave him the name George Washington Carver. So really, didn't Moses and Susan Carver save 2 billion people? Really? So we can go on till dinner time with this. My point is that the smallest movement, the smallest thing you all can do can make a huge, huge difference in the lives of people for generations to come. One of the things that Andy says in this is every move you make, every step you take makes a difference. I just want to encourage you before you leave today, if we get away from this, what a great gathering. Listen to the guy coming up, and he talked about I was listening to a little podcast, and he talked about the next chapter was the title of this. He said, you really need, if you look at the next chapter of things, you need a few things. One is the providence of God. You look at this room. You all are not here today, in my opinion at least, by chance. You're here at this time, working on this issue because you're supposed to be here. You've been provided this group of wonderful people. You've been provided some resources, some great organizations. So you've been provided this opportunity. Then he says you got to come up with a plan, which is where you are today in the work that you've been doing. Then he says you got to have prayer. And certainly that is something I will pray for you all in the work you're doing. I think it's just amazing. And then you can see some progress. So I would close by saying that the decisions you make today determine the story you tell tomorrow. Please continue this great work. I have the greatest admiration for groups like this, your commitment to make the lives of our citizens better through something as simple as some people would think, with a process of having enough food on the table. Amazing group today. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you. God bless your work. I think I'm supposed to take questions, but.
A couple people, it looks like. Jimmy, I have a quick question for you. You gave a lot of great ideas in terms of potential solutions, and you've got as good of or better perspective than anybody in the space. People have different, communities, individuals have different needs, capacities, assets to work with. What's your advice on how to start the process?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, just looking at those, and they're not, certainly not all the models that are out there. There's certainly room for a tremendous amount of innovation. But I think looking at some of the models that have been proven, looking at the strengths of the groups that you're working with, is it like we can get money? Is it like we can get a group of people that will support the program and shop in those things? So, I mean, I think from my standpoint, it's just, taking what you have, the strengths of what's on the ground, and start thinking about how that lines up with some of these models. Same thing we saw in Drew. You start, we'd like to have a physical store. And so you start there. Well, that economically won't work. So then you move down and you start looking at some other things there. So I think those two things, but that community partner is so important. So important.
Ma'am, you have a question?
Yes, hi. Dr. Richard Davis. I'm with University of Arkansas for Medical Science. I actually direct our culinary medicine program. And when I was looking at the White House summary, two of the pillars that they talk about that's summarized from that convening talks about educating healthcare professionals, which is exactly what we do. Are you aware of any specific funding? Because when we look at funding, a lot of it is just in the food space, right?
Oh, a couple things there. Certainly, we see SNAP-Ed as being very effective on that aspect, but again, just not addressing true health care. I think that is being driven a lot from the private funding standpoint with the hospitals in Alabama. We've got several that are very good. Our own community has a mobile clinic that goes around every Friday. They rotate neighborhoods, and they've got a bus very similar to what we have seen earlier. But from the funding standpoint, I don't see a lot yet on the federal level. Most of it is at incentivizing things. But I think on a local, regional level, there's some funding to be found. I would start with healthcare providers, the hospitals.
And the same question holds true for the food prescription program.
Mm-hmm.
There have been, some small funding opportunities,
Right.
but do you know of any others that's coming down the pipeline?
The USDA PPR program, as we refer to it, is going to get very robust. I mean, that is my, now, let me back up and say, we are talking about Washington, okay? And the wind could blow a whole nother direction tomorrow. You never know. But as I stand here today, I am pretty confident that that's the program that will continue to grow, because they do see that providing this element of healthcare provider writing the script and also having some follow-up. We have applied for the pilot in Alabama through Children's Hospital of Alabama. Unfortunately, in our state, not sure how it works in Arkansas, in Alabama, all our hospitals hate each other. They can't stand each other. They don't want to work together. The only common denominator we had was Children's Hospital, who everybody likes. So we went to them and worked through them. But in the produce prescription, you've got a physician writing the script for the fresh produce, but you also got a return visit, hopefully, from that patient back to that physician. So now we're able to see what kind of difference some of these programs are making. It's my belief that the government will continue to fund that one at a much, much more robust level than what you see it at today.
We're fortunate we have a conglomerate with UMS and Baptist, so we do work together. But the other entity, I think, is getting our insurance companies.
Correct. And, you're seeing some of the healthy benefit cards, people like Humana and people like that are out there. So there's a lot of activity in this space. I think for groups like all of us, it's just kind of making sure that we have the lay of the land and that we're accessing all those things that are possible out there.
Any other questions from the group? I've got nothing to add, Jimmy. Thank you.
Sure.
Give Mr. Wright a round of applause. All righty. So, moving right along, we know that ideas are certainly great, but we know that implementing those ideas costs money. And so at this point, we have a 4-panel of speakers to address that. And this particular panel will be moderated by Arkansas Food Bank CEO Brian Burton. On the panel, we have Ms. Charity Hallman from HOPE. We have Anetta Tyree from ACF, Rachel Spencer from the Walmart Foundation, Alan Shannon from USDA, and of course, Brian Burton, the CEO of Food Bank. So if you guys would please come to the panel and we can get started.
Thank you so much. What a great panel this is assembled today. And as she mentioned, I'm Brian Burton, CEO of Arkansas Food Bank. We cover 33 counties from the heart of our state into the Delta, Southeast, and South Central. And of course, many of those communities do not have access to fresh food and grocery stores. And we've heard some great, successful, inspiring models here today, but if you're like me, you're probably thinking in the back of your mind, well, that takes funding. How do we do that? Sometimes you feel like you barely have a glass of water and a toothpick. And so we need to find out where the funding is going to come from. And we have these experts here today. They've already been introduced. Their bios are on the Alliance website. So why don't we kick it off first with Charity from Hope.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We're very happy to be here, very happy to be part of this summit. Just a little more, you've heard a little bit about Hope, but I'll tell you just a little more. We are what you call a community development financial institution, and we represent that through our credit union and our loan fund, which is the Hope Enterprise Corporation, and we work in Arkansas. We are in our 30th year. We're headquartered in Jackson, Mississippi, and we do work across the Deep South, but we have 2 branches here in Little Rock. We're in West Little Rock, and we're at College Station, and we're in West Memphis. And in addition to this community and economic development work, we are very focused on helping people climb the economic ladder, credit recovery. And we have some great staff here today, if they'll raise their hands wherever they are. We're very happy and very proud of them, and we really are about our community. And so I'll pass it along.
Sure. Hi, great to be with you all today. I'm Rachel Spencer. I work with the Walmart Foundation. And so we work across community, sustainability, and opportunity as our investment areas. I am based up in Northwest Arkansas. And my portfolio specifically, I sit on our community resilience team and really think a lot about how do we increase access to healthy food for everyone. And at Walmart Foundation, you may hear also Walmart.org. We sort of use that brand to describe some of our social impact work, but we have what we call a shared value approach to making change in the broader world. So we're really seeking to change systems by leveraging the strength of our business and changing how we do business at Walmart, as well as using philanthropy, using grant dollars to invest in areas that may need some of that seed capital to advance, some of those coordination pieces. So we'll talk more about that, but we really try to bring together the impact we can make through business and philanthropy.
I'm Annetta Tyree. I'm with the Arkansas Community Foundation. For those of you unfamiliar with the Community Foundation, many of you may be, with Arkansas, we've been around since 1976. The core focus of the Community Foundation is really to work with individuals to help them achieve impact with their philanthropic dollars and meet their philanthropic goals. We do that through helping donors establish funds, donor-advised funds, and endowments at the foundation, and then they typically would direct those funds to causes that they want to support. So we see ourselves as helping individuals and all Arkansans be the philanthropists, whether it's, $10 fund or a $10 million fund. Everyone can be a philanthropist, and we work to help them achieve those goals. We have a central office in Little Rock, a regional office in Northwest Arkansas where I'm officed. I'm a program director there, but I work on regional and statewide programming. We've got a program officer in the Delta who's here with us today, Beverly Chapel. And then we have a network of affiliate offices. So we've got 29 affiliates throughout the state of Arkansas. It gives us a really hyper-local reach. So we're in our communities. Those affiliates all have their own local boards of directors made up of local leaders, a local executive director. So they're really looking at the needs in those specific communities, and they're making the decisions about some projects that they're going to fund. I'll get into a little bit more as we go on about the type of funding that we do. So our affiliates do some locally based grant funding. We have limited dollars available to us for foundation-directed funds, since the majority of our gifts are donor-driven. But occasionally we do, and we have some areas where we lean in, including food security. We see ourselves really as connectors, connecting individuals, providing information and data to our donors to help them make smart giving choices and help introduce them to organizations that are doing good work that they may be involved in. So while we're not the largest funder in the state, we probably reach more organizations at a very grassroots level out in our communities. So as we go forward, we'll talk more about the kinds of grants that we do.
Awesome. Joining us remotely is Alan Shannon from USDA.
Everybody, can you see me?
Yes.
Great. And I'm assuming you can hear me since you responded. So I'm so sorry that I can't be there in person. I know it's always better. So I'm going to try to make up for my lack of physical presence by enthusiasm when I'm speaking. So I'm the Public Affairs Director in the Midwest region, and USDA has 16 nutrition assistance programs. And you heard from our regional leader, Bill Ludwig. Fantastic, best in the business, and I was privileged to work with him during a detail earlier this year. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about some of the programs that were mentioned by previous speakers and that Bill may have touched on. And then I'm going to talk about some other USDA programs that are outside of FNS programs. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the work, the way that we've applied those and communities have utilized those programs and the way that we've worked with them. So happy to be here virtually.
Awesome. We're very lucky to have all of you all. I'll kick off the discussion by asking a question. How can your organization contribute to addressing the funding needs of a food desert project? And what types of financial support and/or services do you offer? Anybody?
I can start with the types of grants that we do. So I mentioned our affiliates. So our affiliates can participate in 1 or 2 grant cycles per year called Giving Tree grants. I would encourage you all to go to our website at arcf.org. There's affiliate information there. You can look up to see if there's an affiliate in your area, what county or counties that they serve, and then contact information for their local executive director. If you are in an area with an affiliate, I encourage you to reach out to them to find out what their local boards are choosing to support through their grant-making dollars. And what their donors may be interested in, because they, again, have that ability to define the areas where they want to focus on in their communities. So reach out and find that out. Some of them are leaning in areas of food security. One thing I did not mention, we also provide data through our Aspire Arkansas website. So you can also go to aspirearkansas.org. There we've got quality of life indicators that you can drill down on a county by county basis. Indicators related to health, communities, family, education. So you can drill down to reading levels in your county, food security rates in your county, and a host of other things. We'll be updating that. New update coming in early 2024, but there is data there. It's provided by third-party resources, so we don't do that research, but provide that information out to you to make informed decisions on your giving. So our local affiliates are using that data also to help them inform them on what the needs are in their community. The foundation as a whole looked at that a few years ago and said, what are we seeing across Arkansas that are common issues that many, if not most, of our counties are dealing with? Chose a couple of areas to lean in early literacy and in food security. We're looking at areas of food security to want to make sure that all Arkansans live in an area where they have access to nutritious, healthy foods, a challenge which we're here today to discuss. We want to make sure food is affordable, it's accessible, it's safe, it's nutritious, and that it's client-centered. So we provide some education to our affiliate directors in those areas so they can look at what's in their region in those food systems, if there is something that they can choose to support or to connect those resources. For us, we also, again, I mentioned we have limited foundation-directed dollars, but occasionally we do have a fund that a donor may have directed us that we can choose how to spend those monies within a certain field of interest, or we may have a deceased donor who left a fund with a specific field of interest, and we can use those dollars. We did happen to have some funds available for access to local foods. So we instituted a grant cycle a couple of years ago, the Access to Local Foods Grant. We ran the first one in 2021, and then the second one in 2022. We decided to, because it's limited dollars, how can we make the most impact? So we made those 2-year general operating support grants. So these organizations can use them however they would like. And we're focusing in on programs that support underrepresented specialty crop farmers in diverse or minority communities, because we recognize that that's where a lot of our food deserts are existing. Also, programs that are piloting are operating innovative strategies around aggregating produce, or if you've got growers coming together to find distribution markets or an entity, a food hub that's helping them with that, and then any projects related to improving our food systems. So again, that was a 2-year grant, so we're not going to have that available again until probably fall of 2024. But again, visit our website, look at our affiliates, and sign up for our nonprofit newsletter. That's where you're going to get notified when we have an upcoming grant cycle, and watch our social media.
So HOPE approaches this work, I think, through a variety of methods, but the 4 primary ways that we support this work through financing is 1, through technical assistance, right? HOPE, we are a financial institution, we are a lender, right? So that does mean loans. We are not typically a grant maker, but we are a grant connector. So the technical assistance we typically offer is we're going to sit down with you, we're going to help you think through your project, we're going to connect you to the grant-making organizations in your state, in your community, nationally. We sometimes take on the role of being the grant writer or a co-collaborator for your project. We've done it in many cases. You've heard a little bit about that today, but we have also taken that role with municipalities. Several of our projects, I think we've lent into 16 different food desert projects, and several of those have been with municipalities in New Orleans and Louisiana, right? So we're a thought partner. The other way is we have products that are somewhat designed to help this, right? Short-term loans, long-term loans, equipment loans, and we will, what we call braid funding or stack funding, right? We are used to this. We understand, our underwriters understand what they're looking at, what they're getting into. And it's never anything that we do lightly, right? It's a conversation, it's a relationship. We start a project with you, we stay with you after that project has ended. And sometimes we look for technical assistance that we can offer you or the organization even after that loan has closed, because we want you to be successful, because we are a credit union, right? So it is our members that we are representing. And another way that we are working is just sharing information. Kevin, and it talks about this a lot, we are trying to be more visible here in Arkansas, and we try to share best practices and tell you the good, the bad, and the challenging along the way, because we want you to be successful.
So 2 ways I'm going to answer this question. The first is that unlike my colleagues here in person on the panel, a lot of our dollars actually flow through national nonprofits, and then they end up playing out in states and local communities. So several of those national nonprofits have actually been mentioned already today. Reinvestment Fund is certainly one of them. The other one I wanted to flag was LISC, which is Local Initiative Support Corporation. There's also the American Heart Association Bernard J. Tyson Fund, as well as a group called Equitable Food Oriented Development, or EFOD. So all of those groups have resources and different re-granting projects that can support food access work in communities. Now, the second piece of this is that I was part of our former governor's food desert task force that we had last year, and that's one of the reasons I'm here today. And as part of that, we learned a lot by participating, alongside of our fellow state stakeholders in that group. We were particularly inspired by Gloria's work in Mississippi, and so we have a strategy now. I would call it an emerging strategy in our philanthropic portfolio around thinking about what are some of the ways that we could invest in effective nonprofit and retail partnerships to help increase food access in communities. Because fundamentally, our business, we call ourselves an omni-channel retailer, meaning that we want to help customers get the products that they want and need, whether that's in-store, through online delivery, or through pickup. So we have those different options, but then how are we getting to that very last mile of ensuring that we can really get to communities that are harder to reach? We have delivery coverage in over 70% of US households, but that means that we have give or take 30% where we don't. So we are working with some local partners in Arkansas to think about what scaling that kind of model could look like.
Great. Alan?
Sure. And I would recommend that people look at this holistically. I've been working in this space since 2010. And you can make some small changes, but really looking at the system as a whole is what's really going to change things. So thinking of social determinants of health and partnering with healthcare, I know that was mentioned by the previous speaker. You pull in the other resources, and if you're addressing social determinants of health, and part of that is that local economy. So if you're doing local food purchasing or you're partnering with organizations that are doing local food purchasing, that's going to bring more dollars into the local economy, which can help support grocery stores, farmers markets, and the like, and also bring people's standard of living up. Some other things that you can do is connecting with USDA. Rural Development has several programs. Those have been mentioned. And then, of course, FNS. One of the first things that I always recommend that people look at is SNAP. And well, of course, you all know SNAP, but you know that SNAP is underutilized. So making sure that people that are eligible for SNAP are participating in SNAP. And then if you layer on top of that GovSNP, making sure that you're operating GovSNP or a Double Up Food Bucks program, that brings more dollars in, which makes grocery stores or some sort of retail more economically viable. WIC is underutilized, so making sure that you're considering WIC in the calculations, making sure that you're working in partnership with those WIC agencies. So WIC is about 50% utilization, so that's an opportunity there. And then along with SNAP, we've got the Farmers Market Nutrition Program and the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program at farmers markets. So making sure that markets are offering all three programs, making sure that they're SNAP authorized, and we can assist with that. And then again, if you layer on top of that GovSNP so that there's an incentive that provides additional funds for the local farmers or food producers as well as participants. Another program that USDA offers that's operated or administered by our sister agency, NIFA, is Community Food Projects. If you're not familiar with that, I'd invite you to check out our website. This grant is open right now, and it's intended to bring together stakeholders from different parts of the food system and to foster understanding of food security trends and how they might improve local food systems. And understanding that low-income individuals experience a disproportionate access to healthy foods. The intended projects are to address food and nutrition insecurity. So this is exactly what we're talking about here. So check it out if you haven't already and you're not familiar with it. Again, I think it closes October 30th or sometime around then. And then right now, FNS has TFAP Reach and Resiliency projects that are ongoing. And those are grants made available to all the TFAP state agencies. Most states received funding, including Arkansas. I think it was 1 point something million. And the goal is to expand TFAP's reach into remote, rural, tribal, and or low income areas that are most underserved. So if you're not already familiar with that or connected with the work that's going on, there's opportunities for funders potentially to layer on some of their programs to help that program become even more successful. USDA has a new urban ag program. Well, it's fairly new. And so for the urban areas, these new offices assist urban, small scale, and innovative producers with growing, processing, and selling. And we provide technical and financial assistance for a variety of growing operations, including community farms and gardens, rooftop, indoor, vertical, hydroponic, aeroponic, aquaponic. Pretty much if it's growing something, this program can potentially help. These operations provide healthy local food and they encourage economic development. Getting back to my social determinants of health comment, they provide employment and on-the-job training. They expand community green spaces. They foster community collaboration and build a climate and disaster resilient community. So check out your urban ag office if you haven't already. Those are operated through FS Farm Service Agency, and they are going to be opening these offices in urban communities around the country.
Okay, Alan, we
And
have
then
two more questions, so we need to wrap it up.
Okay, sorry. All right. There are a number, I'll just mention these other one, USDA community facilities through RD, EPA's local food, local places, the Farmers Market Promotion Program, and USDA's local food promotion program. You can check them all out on our website. Thanks.
I think I discovered an organization that has more acronyms than the Methodist Church. It's USDA, right? I knew food banking did, but no, it's lots of opportunities. Great information. Real quickly, and let's try to do about 2 minutes each on this. We've heard a lot from our speakers today about the importance of planning and being strategic. We just can't afford to waste time or to cause harm. What are just some quick bullet points on how you assess the financial viability and sustainability of the proposals and projects that you look over? What are those criteria? Just give us some insight into that, if you would.
I'd say at the Community Foundation, we really try to keep our applications and review process very simple because our grants are typically not on a very large level, especially at our local affiliate level. I mean, a $5,000 grant is a large grant. Our Access to Local Foods grants are $15,000 a year for 2 years. So we try to keep our applications really simple. We're not asking for audited financial statements. Typically, we want a program project budget and the organizational budget. Just review to make sure there's not red flags. If there are, we'll reach out to the organization to explain those.
Awesome.
So we always start with a conversation. We start with, what are you trying to accomplish? Who are you working with? What groundwork have you laid thus far? What have you tried thus far? Where'd you get the idea from? I mean, we're getting nosy. We want to know what you're thinking and why you're thinking it and how you're going to get there. Because if you're talking to us, then we're talking about lending, right? And so we have to address the conversation around financial feasibility because we want you to be successful. Right? No one wants to repossess a grocery store or a freezer, and I don't even think that's viable, right? So we really dig in on the concept, and then that is usually where we start with, okay, what are the other resources we can put into this package to decrease the debt? And that is not something you usually hear from a financial institution, right? But we want your loan to be as low as it can be, and we want it to be, your package to be as strong as it can be. So that's where we start. A market study, a lot of times people see this as red tape, but you've heard today from Mr. Wright, just the importance of that market study. It's going to tell you it's going to verify either your assumptions or it's going to clarify where you need to go, where your gaps are. And so that is always a component of this. And once we have a market study, once we kind of see where the financial package is, then we would start the real underwriting, right? We're going to look at your organization. We have to know who your borrower is. And that sometimes gets to be a tricky conversation, right? Like, who's actually going to take financial responsibility for that project? And then we do your normal, just like thinking about your car loan, we need financial statements, we need your audit, we need to make sure you're actually a real organization set up with the IRS and you've told the state of Arkansas you're an organization. So those are the things, then we move through that process. But we love to talk with you, and that's always where we start.
We've heard a lot from several of our speakers about the importance of mapping those community assets, and I think that is absolutely critical. And it doesn't have to be overly formalized, but I think whether it is a market assessment or you're also looking across your community and thinking about, is it the local extension office? Is it the library? Is it your local Feeding America affiliate? Who are the people that are also doing this work in your community that you should be partnering with? And then with projects, I'm always looking for what's the plan of coordinating partners too. You have folks from 7 different organizations in a room, and you want to be clear on how you are aligning that vision towards success. What is the role that everyone is going to play? And it sounds very simple, but I think also challenging ourselves to be really clear on what problem are you looking to solve with this specific project, because everything we've discussed here today, these are giant societal problems that we're all working towards, right? And a $5,000 grant, a $200,000 grant, a $2 million grant may not be enough to totally fix that. And it's not going to be enough to totally fix that. So how are you getting really clear about what success looks like in that grant period? Because you're not going to just magically, all of us know we're not just going to, wave a magic wand and fix these things, but can we have a really clear vision of, as a result of this money and as a result of this project, the world is going to be different in these ways, or we will have learned these things. I think I've also really appreciated today that we're being really upfront about challenges, and those are extremely important, to be clear on what your challenges are and to also name the things that you're testing out and learning, because it's okay that things are hard. And I think sometimes folks are hesitant to share that with grant makers, but it actually is better when you're honest about that and say, here is how we're grappling with it. The last thing I'll note is that we particularly like to see some diversity of support in the budget. So especially if we're thinking about creating a new staff position or a new organization, those are people's lives. So if you have one grant that is fully funding a staff position for a nonprofit, that's a vulnerable position, because what if you don't get that grant again? Or what if it's one-time funding? So we actually ask folks to have staff positions budgeted at 50% or less, and there are some exceptions to that, but I think just having that awareness of how your budget is really supporting the project and making sure that there's some diversity of support in your budget. And that's where you get to stacking some of those funds and thinking about maximizing your different federal and private resources.
Excellent. Alan?
I'll use less than 2 minutes. So for federal grants, you've got to go through the portal, and they're highly competitive, and you do need to dot every I, cross every T, and the financial viability for a lot of the grants isn't always a component to consider. But if you can get a grant writer, highly recommend that, because other organizations do that, and you're competing against them. And I also recommend for SNAP authorization and WIC authorization that you think about those in advance, far in advance. Reach out to our office and have that conversation. If it's a co-op or a non-traditional retailer model, please talk to us beforehand so we can get everything set up, make sure that it fits our requirements for authorization. And we've done this a couple times, had these advanced conversations. So then when it's opening day and the governor is there, they're SNAP authorized. Thank you.
Awesome. And so final question, we could just have a couple of you respond to this. Let's think about it. The folks in this room, we're out there every day working long hours, not always seeing those short-term wins, walking alongside people that live on the ragged rim of this economy. We need to be inspired. We need to be encouraged. Any examples of some successful partnerships and collaborations that come to mind, particularly around this food desert space that we're so eager to help solve in our state?
I'll jump in now, or at least start. How about that? So I think this is one of the things that makes me very proud to be part of HOPE. We have supported 16 healthy food projects in underserved areas. We started back in 2011. Those investments are around $20 million. But more importantly, we've been able to leverage about $74 million, right? And this is where I'm talking about adding in all the players. And these relationships and these projects have gone from working with the city of New Orleans. We were able to help the city come up with a match. We were able to match and then work with the state of Louisiana through their Agriculture Finance Authority. And then we have had opportunities to work with Market Fair in New Orleans. We've also worked with the Food Trust, Together Jackson, and Together Baton Rouge. And each of these have been successful. It's not to say we haven't had a few that haven't been successful. And we have had challenges, in part because the community wasn't truly involved in the initial discussion. And that's usually when we do sort of a root cause, that's what we find. But that is Since 2011, it's led to over 400,000 people having access to better food. And so I think that's powerful. I don't have time to get into each one, but yeah.
Anyone else?
I'll share that we've worked with Chicago Botanic Garden, a botanical garden, and you would think that's not a traditional partner. But they leveraged USDA's Beginning Farmer Rancher Development Grant Program to train ex-offenders and disadvantaged youth and residents of a West Side food desert neighborhood that's economically disadvantaged on how to be farmers. So a lot of them have graduated into careers outside of farming. They've learned skills that they were able to apply to other positions in the food sector or other businesses, hospitality as well. They have a number of farms around the city, and what they did is they built this processing center and community center and grocery store and aquaponics, and they bring all the food from those sites that is grown by farmers, new farmers that are trained through this USDA program, USDA funded program. They bring it there and then they distribute it to some of the stuff goes to high-end restaurants, so they get a premium for that. Others goes to food pantries, they sell it right there, and they're also SNAP authorized and WIC authorized. And they partner with a local healthcare provider and they operate GusNIP. So they do food prescriptions. So the community health provider does an assessment, provides the prescription. So they go in and buy a box of food that's locally grown by disadvantaged youth and ex-offenders. Fantastic closed loop model that leverages a lot of USDA programs.
Well, Kenya, I want to honor the time. We got started a little bit late. Is there time for a question or two from the
I have real quick homework.
Yes,
for
yes,
everyone,
yes.
If that's okay. So who works at a nonprofit in this room? Raise your hand. Several. Okay. So I recommend you go to walmart.com/nonprofits, and there you're going to find our suite of resources called Spark Good. And you can actually register to be part of Spark Good, and then you can get your nonprofit selected as a charity of choice for people doing roundup donations when they're checking out on walmart.com, and you can use that place to apply for store grants. So happy to talk more about that later if anybody has questions. Thank you, guys.
I have a real quick question. When you talk about nonprofits, are you including religious organizations?
I'm talking about if you have your 501c3 status with the IRS, typically. There's some other classifications, but it depends is the short answer to that question. Yeah, we evaluate stuff on a case-by-case basis, and I'm not sure if faith-based organizations are included. In Spark Good right now, public schools are, but we can talk more about that. What about you guys? Walmart.com/nonprofits.
For our affiliate level grants and some of our grants, we would, if a religious organization or church is operating a food pantry or something of that nature that's not affiliated with, the church services, and that's not a requirement to receive food, then we can consider those.
Let's give the panel a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Who's ready for a brain break? All right, yes, so we want to welcome back Miss Sarah Thomas for our second and final brain break of the day. So, we're gonna get the microphone for her and get into it. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Are you look at y'all escaping. I see you, Marty. Hey, girl. Okay, everyone stand up. We have been sitting so long.
Yes.
I want you to step behind your chair. Step behind your chair. Good deal. How are we on time, Miss Kenya?
You have 9 minutes.
Oh, okay, we can do this. Okay, so I'm gonna teach you one of the things my mom taught me literally when I was like 3 or 4.
Yeah, so you can just come up.
And then I ended up using it when I found I had MS. So it's how you do tree pose. Also, balance. How's your balance feel that way? So we're gonna do it on both sides. So step away from your chair a little bit. You can place both hands on top of your chair. We're gonna be safe. Okay, you're gonna take your right foot and you're gonna bring it to the side of your ankle. So you're gonna start as a seed. As anything you're growing, it's just a seed, just right here. If you're happy here, stay there, be happy, think happy thoughts, okay? If you want to grow, you can bring your foot to your calf, not your knee, not your knee, not your knee. For my extra flexy people and some of my yogis who came and hugged me, you can bring your foot all the way up. Wait a minute, wait, Jesus, hold on. Now, hold on to the chair. Good. Now, if you're feeling really spicy, you can let go of the chair.
I have two.
Lift your hands up. Ooh, ooh.
Yes.
Ooh, look at you. Okay, show off, look at you. Drop your hands down. Shake your leg out. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna try the other side. I actually am like, yeah, I can walk. I feel good today. I'm balanced. All right. Left foot. Same thing. Start as a seed. Okay. Don't try to grow too fast. See if you can come up as a stem. And remember, one side feels different than the other. It's okay. Grow a little taller if you can. Look at my spice. You make me proud. Yes. Let go if you like. There we go. Look at y'all. That's a tree pose. I love my trees. Awesome. Drop it down. Good. Drop your foot. Relax. Shake it out. Okay. We're not done yet. She said 9 minutes. I'm gonna be crazy. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is you're gonna bring your feet parallel. It's the same distance you had. Remember when we were sitting, you have two fists in between your knee. I said feast because I had 2 plates of lunch. Disclaimer. It was building up. So you can do that distance right there. Good. Hold onto your chair. Everyone take an inhale in. Roll your back a little bit. When you get to your edge, exhale your breath. Good. Slowly come back forward. We're going to do a little back bend again. Take an inhale through your nose. Exhale, back bend. Good, come back up. Doesn't that feel a little better? Gave your stomach some room from the 2 plates of food I ate. Yes, good. Everybody feeling okay? Roll those shoulders. Because y'all were just sitting in these chairs like I was, and we haven't moved at all since we stood in line. Good. Roll those shoulders forward. Awesome. Okay. Everybody lift both hands up. Take your left hand, grab your right wrist. Good. Opposite of me. Pull that right wrist over to the left. Gently. Good. Let your head come through that circle. So you're like a ray of sunshine. Good. Come back to center. Release, hands up. Yay. Now, right hand grabs left wrist. Pull over to the right. Good. Make sure you're sticking your head through that circle. Good. Smile. Good, come back to center. Arms up. Now, y'all feeling good? You feel okay? Okay, one more thing, because our neck, we've just been looking forward up here all day, or some of us on the side are like trying to make it, you see, we were trying to make it work. Yes. So nice and gently, we're gonna make circles with our head. Nice and gentle, no rush. Keep your breath, don't hold your breath. Good, take the circle to the other side. All right, relax your head. Okay, everybody come back around. Find your seat at the edge of your chair. I know, we're back to that chair, we're sitting again. Every yoga practice, I have to have a moment of meditation. It's just part of it. So, everyone close your eyes. Good. Take your left hand, place it on your heart. Take your right hand, place it on your left hand. Everyone take a breath in. Exhale it out. Inhale in. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale out of your mouth. Good. Move your jaw around. Yeah, just move it around gently. Open your eyes. Relax your hands. I saw some of y'all, so I'm just gonna say, some of you who took these big yawns, a lot of it is that you're not breathing enough. And so when you take a yawn, you need to get more breath out. So when you inhale, like really take that breath in, and exhale, really brush it out. It's really good for you. It really opens up your lungs, especially with this allergy season that's happening coming into the fall. Yeah, it's happening. Now, y'all ready for our next group?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Let's give Ms. Thomas a round of applause. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. All righty. So another successful model that we studied was from Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is the Oasis Market, and it, my friends, is a great model. And one of the things I'm most excited about is that if you follow the news from Pine Bluff, Arkansas lately, you will know that they found Oasis from our report and are working with Mr. Johnson, our next presenter, about a market for Pine Bluff. So at this time, we're just gonna go ahead and turn it over to Mr. AJ.
It is a big day for people in North Tulsa, celebrating the grand opening of the new Oasis Fresh Market. Oasis Fresh Market, the new grocery store in North Tulsa.
This is about so much more than just groceries.
So many incredible things are happening right here. I believe that Tulsa is a city on a hill.
Everybody say, we have hope. No, say it like you mean it. We have hope. So put your hand on your chest and say, I have hope. I'm loved.
I'm loved.
I'm safe.
I'm safe.
I'm valuable.
I'm valuable.
I look good.
I look good.
I smell good.
I smell good.
I'm innovative.
I'm innovative.
I'm creative.
I'm creative.
I'm strong.
I'm strong.
I'm bold.
I'm bold.
I'm courageous.
Courageous.
I'm the head,
I'm the head.
not the tail.
Not the tail.
I'm above,
I'm above.
not beneath.
Not beneath.
I'm a winner.
I'm a winner.
I serve.
I serve.
I help others win.
I help others.
I serve others.
I serve others.
I'm forgiven,
I'm forgiven.
so I forgive,
So I forgive.
and I'm loved.
And I'm loved.
I'm powerful.
I'm powerful.
I'm a change maker.
I'm a change maker.
I'm a history maker.
I'm a history maker.
I'm powerful.
I'm powerful.
I'm innovative.
I'm innovative.
I take initiative,
I take initiative.
and I help others win.
And I help.
Come on, give yourselves a round of applause, baby.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, though we are in Arkansas, where are we really with the Tulsa crew? We are in Tulsa right now. So everybody stand up on your feet. We're going to do what we normally do. Tulsa crew, why don't you just come on up? Y'all give it up for the Tulsa crew while they're walking up all the way from Tulsa. Tulsa and Miss, I know Miss Kathy Webb is out sick. And where is it Lance? Were we talking to Lance? Where's Lance?
Lance is out sick as well.
He's out sick. Do we need to clean the microphone? My God. Where my mask at? All the Tulsa crew, come on. Can you guys, and Council Letitia, come to the front, give it up for her as well. Yeah. Look, we said we serve others. Can you guys give them a round of applause?
Yeah.
We're grateful. This is some of the amazing team, Charles and Damalia, and the World One Development team, as well as with Oasis. And we just wanted to say thank you for, I always like to give thanks up front, because we believe and we teach our children that giving thanks makes room for a greater blessing. So rather than bringing the team up at the end, we want to thank them in the beginning, because we're thankful for you all and all of the leadership that has been in touch with us for. It's been a long time since we've been in these conversations. And for us, we're all hope dealers. And we believe that wherever we can take a step in underserved or rural communities, that there are lives that can be touched, that there are people and futures and destinies. And we're we're grateful to be a part of the conversation here, right here in Pine Bluff and beyond. And so this is the team. So again, just thank you guys for one, staying committed, making that drive with us because the planes got all messed up, but we here. Give it up for the Tulsa team again. We're grateful. Okay, so everybody lift your left hand up. I don't need a microphone for this. Lift your right hand up. And this is going to be a determination of whether or not you have rhythm or not. Follow the beat right here as we begin to clap. We start our 9:30 staff huddles every morning like this. Let's pick it up a little bit. And then I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and you're going to say Oasis, strong, loud, and confident. 1, 2, 3, Oasis! That was a little weak. That was a little weak. That was kinda. I thought Arkansas picked suey, that y'all was strong. You know, them hogs, with the little wild hogs that got the little fangs on them. I thought y'all was something crazy. So we're gonna give you a chance for redemption. We are people of second chances.
Yeah.
So we will give you all a second chance. Everybody lift that left hand up. Lift that right hand up. Let's get the clap going. Come on. And this is a chance to reset your mind, to shake off whatever that text message, that email. This is the reset moment. And I'm going to say Oasis loud, strong. And I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. And you're going to say Oasis loud. 1, 2, 3. Oasis! Yeah, let's go, baby! Give that person behind you a high five. Say your breath smells good. Your breath smells good. And have a seat. Have a seat. Good job. Thank you, team. Good job. Thank you, bro. Little Rock. What did I say? Pine Bluff, Little Rock. Look, it's all Arkansas. Look, okay? We're here. One of my favorite mentors from afar is John Maxwell, and he says we cannot be friends without knowing each other's names. So my name is AJ. Everybody say hi, AJ. Hi. And on the count of 3, using your imagination, we know we're supposed to follow rules, but on the count of 3, all together, I want you to say your name back to me. 1, 2, 3. Come on, give yourself some snaps. Well, this is a good group right here, Little Rock, Pine Bluff. I don't know where I'm at. I was just on the road for 4 hours nonstop. And you think, man, I'm gonna have some chance to listen to some good audiobooks. I'm gonna have a chance just to have a moment to myself. Ding, bing, ding, bing. You get more emails and phone calls done. So I am still unwiring my brain. But thank you for the yoga instructor. Give it up again for her. Namaste. I don't even know what that means, but I've been to a few yoga classes, okay? A little bit about me. I am a first-generation college graduate. Grew up in a single-parent home. And I remember the first time that I recognized that we were different. Growing up in a single-parent home, I've got 2 older sisters. And I just, as a kid, I felt what was now what we call trauma, I guess. Back then, we don't know what it was. Suck it up, keep your head up. But back then, I guess I recognized the trauma of knowing that we were different. I was going into a grocery store. We lived in a different part of town, and we just happened to be that particular moment in a kind of more affluent side of town. Going to the grocery store, my mom says, get a few things, and the divorce was hard. And I just remember being a young boy feeling like, am I getting an echo? Or is that just my brain? My brain, okay. See, that means great things are coming. I remember going into the grocery store, getting to the cash register as a kid. And I want to say I was probably 7, 8, or 9, getting to the cash register. And back then, how many had paper food stamps? You know, you had that blue, that red, the little yellow. Boy, if you got that blue and that red, boy, you was like, this today, boy. We're not getting the penny candy today. We're getting 25-cent candy today. Trauma. Getting to the cash register, and the cashier didn't know how to process food stamps. So over the intercom, need help on aisle or cashier, whatever. And the next manager, shift lead, whomever came up, and they too didn't know how to process. The third manager over the intercom, and I just remember, I was already a young kid, but I remember and I feel myself getting emotional. I remember getting back into the car and not saying a word. Because I guess that was the first time that I had felt as a kid, didn't have the words, but I was embarrassed. I felt a tad bit humiliated. And it wasn't their fault, you know, that they didn't know. But I remember my mom did such a great job of really teaching us that we were no different. But it was in that defining moment that I recognized something's different. Long story short, I never thought that I would grow up and touch part of the world or change the world through grocery stores. But that grocery store moment led me to my first, I call it government, my first government job at 14. I think I actually lied to get a job to help my mom pay bills, but I was a bag boy at a grocery store. And then my first job out of college, University of Tulsa, I worked as a district manager for a grocery store. So not recognizing that the circle of life, as they say on The Lion King, comes back full force. And now we are in a community. We opened a grocery store May 17, 2021, at the height of the pandemic. Like when everyone was like, sit down, go in your corner, put your mask on. Somebody, clears their throat and you're like, ooh, you got COVID, please move away. And since the whole Food Alliance team, we're praying for y'all. They got, I don't know what they got, but we don't want it. Praying for y'all. I don't know where I'm going. My counselor says sometimes I have a little ADHD, so just say a little prayer if you think. But we opened up the grocery store, the first grocery store in 14 years, first full service grocery store in 14 years, and the first Black-owned grocery store in over 50 years. And why that is super significant is because North Tulsa was once called Black Wall Street, as many of us all know. And I'm sure every state, as history continues to unfold, and the more that I learn, it's almost as every state had a Black Wall Street of some sort. It's basically some sort, an ecosystem of others that lived together, worked together, played together, and did everything else and beyond. But the power of that ecosystem, as we know, and still is a true reality today, they recognized that there was power and strength in community and people coming together. And it's kind of devastating to think even today that because of the way that we look, one can be possibly considered marginalized or different or an outcast. Oh, well, if you go to that part of town, they're just going to rob you blind. Don't go to this part of town close to dark because it's a little... These are the conversations, and unfortunately at times, decisions that are made based off of those kind of indicators, those kind of responses. When in every one of these communities, whether rich or poor, affluent, high class, middle class, whatever class, in all of our communities, there are people. There's a heartbeat. There's a dream. There's a hope. There's a desire. There's a mom fighting for her life and a child raising other siblings. Firemen and police departments that put on the badges, but they're truly afraid to go out because of the world that we live in today. Little girls or boys that have challenges, or aunts that have taken on other siblings because another is in jail or was murdered. And on all of our communities, there are people that are looking for hope. There are people that are looking for someone to believe in them. And we pick the name Oasis because the definition of Oasis, everybody say refuge, safe place, shelter. Now, in the solitude of this moment, I'm going to give you yet another redemption opportunity. So right now, you're not doing well, okay? So I need you to say with a little confidence. Everybody say refuge, safe place, shelter. Again, refuge, safe place, shelter. And we also say we want people to be seen. Everybody say seen, safe, heard. Seen, safe, heard. Girl, she get an A. Whoever else, somebody over here who's an A+ student, give them some snaps. I was one of those C's get degrees, but I got a degree. You see, that's all that matters, boy. I got that 79.9, but I passed, baby, I passed. Shifting back into the faces, those that walk, those that at times live under a bridge, those that have even gotten caught stealing for the sake of food or stealing because an abuser, or that grandma that's down to her last little bit at the end of the month before that Social Security check comes back around, or before that those SNAP benefits come back around, for that mom that's working 3 or 4 jobs, for that young lady that's unfortunately in an abusive situation and doesn't know how to get out, for the little boy who's without a father, that's looking for identity, for that pregnant young lady that just needs someone to say it's okay, for that wealthy person that's on the brink of the pressures of this and that and the other, the things that people say or things that they don't know, for that person that's got a thriving business. All of these are people that one of us or all of us have encountered at one level or another. But so often in some of the, quote, underserved, or said differently, under-resourced communities, where there's a lack of pharmacies, where there's a lack of home ownership, where there's a lack of internet access, quality internet access, where there's a lack of strong, positive police officers and firemen, where there's a lack of successful, amazing, happy teachers and thriving schools, a lack of medical facilities, but yet we wonder what's happening in our communities. There are people that are in need of the gift that you have, of the dream that's on the inside of you. Oasis is more than just a grocery store. And we were intentional about building and creating and designing a community impact center where they could come get medical help, where they can get their backgrounds expunged if they were in a situation, or where they can learn home ownership, where they can get their ears checked, their eyes checked. All of these great organizations exist in all of our communities. But what we have chosen to do is to say, hey, it doesn't matter if you want the credit or we want the credit. At the end of it, it's about serving people. Legacy and or impact. So we believe one of the most important things that anyone can ever hear at the end of their life is, well done, thou good and faithful servant. It's not going to say teacher, CEO, investor. It's not going to say that on your tombstone. It's just going to have the dash. And the dash is a representation of the impact and the people's lives that you touched. That waitress that we don't know her name, or that janitor that's picking up trash, or that homeless person that's walking down the street that probably once may have been a scientist or a professor or a thriving spouse, but yet one thing led to another, and we're people, we're humans. And today the world is so quick to want to jab or to want to, well, look what they did, when really sometimes it can be a ploy to go, man, there's someone hurting on the inside of me. And we teach these principles. Yes, we have a grocery store. Yes, we're 2.5 years old. This will be now our second or third Christmas. And every month we do monthly outreaches where the crew that's here will bring in a DJ and we give gift cards away every month. We do all of those screenings that we talked about, flu shots and vaccine shots, all of those things as a resource center to equip people for life. So a person can come to the grocery store and get a gallon of milk and some produce, but they can also get help. Hey, I just got custody of my daughter's kids. This is now my 7th grandchild that is living with me. Where we've had that and we've been able to help. Where they didn't know that they qualified for so many benefits. That's how you equip people for life. How do we leave every person with the impression of increase? When people walk away from you, how do they feel? Do they feel empowered, or do they feel belittled or degraded? And sometimes, as humans, I want to clap back at some of the customers that come to the store. Well, AJ, this chicken was bad. And in my head, I'm thinking, do I look like a chicken farmer? Like I picked the chicken. Yes, ma'am, I'm so sorry that happened. How can I serve you? When in my head is like, deep, 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 deep. But it's about serving people. It is, I mean, we make light of it and we laugh, but there are hard moments in the grocery industry. And especially today with now there's almost 5 major powerhouses that control the food throughout America. And here we are, we've entered into the space at the height of the pandemic to say, we think it's a great idea to open a grocery store in a community that so many have discounted, that so many have chosen to overlook. And as God is my witness, Charles and Damali, there's been many a times where I said, we're boarding up these doors tomorrow. Because the pressure, sometimes being fully transparent, sometimes it's like we get 10 steps ahead and then boom, you get knocked back 20, 30 more steps. The constant battle. And as a human, even a few weeks ago, I was like, Lord, I'm done. We're trying to serve people, but yet the oppression and the attack feels constantly so heavy. But when we made the decision to open Oasis, we knew that it wouldn't come without a price. There's a price and then there's the promise. But in order to get to the promise, you got to be willing to pay the what? The price. So you being here today in your organization, in your position, and even in the dreams that are in your heart, are you willing to pay the price? And in this, I'm sure you're willing to pay the price because you've made a decision to take a step today to be here, whether you were voluntold or you chose to be here. Really ask yourself at the end of this, what am I going to do with this information? We go to conferences all the time and we get great information, but how are we impacting that mom, that daughter, that teacher, that liaison? How are we impacting people? Because in our world today, people need hope. People need you. If you look at your fingerprint, everybody just look at your thumb for a second. Look at your thumb. You are uniquely created. There's no other thumb, there's no other fingerprint in the world that looks like yours. Why? We were born to do something original. Don't die a copy. If I was so fixed on trying to be like anyone else, I would miss, and life would pass me by. I would miss who I'm called and destined to be. And some days it's easy to be a copy. Some days it's easier, and in the grocery space, no one told me, being a first generation business owner, that would mean you were a counselor, you were a janitor, you were the security at 3 o'clock in the morning when the alarm was going off because somebody forgot to lock the door, and in your head you just want to beep it at bap it at boopy. They didn't tell you that you would be an adult babysitter. They didn't tell you that you would have employees that would constantly need pay in advance because they're in situations. They didn't tell you that sometimes the vendor would discount you because it's easier to go to the bigger grocery stores rather than to come to your store that day. They don't tell you that you're going to be in groups and not know certain information on things because there's constantly possibly people that are trying to do other things. Times that you don't know that sometimes the agendas or the conversations that you're sharing with people is all a ploy to, when at the end of the day, it's about people. It's all about people. There's a reason why, unfortunately, and a lot of it's helping a lot of communities, but you look at the Dollar General model, it's a publicly traded company. We have 10 Dollar Generals in our community. With Councilwoman Vanessa Harper, she put in a moratorium, which basically means a block, in order to prevent more Dollar Generals from coming to our community. In North Tulsa, the statistics are, our community of North Tulsa, people are dying 11 years faster than any other community. So just imagine, and what are some of the life expectancy rates in Arkansas for your organizations? Say it. Boy, y'all got to get some data, people in your circle. It's good to know. Someone please look up the life expectancy rate in Little Rock and just yell it out whenever you get it. Why? Because that means if this side of the room was, what's considered the uppity side of Arkansas? The Heights, okay. And then what's considered maybe the under-resourced? South side. Okay, South side. Yeah, South side. Okay, so if this side is the Heights, everybody say hi Heights. Okay, so if this side was the Heights and this side was the South side, okay, if this side was the South side and both of you all had babies on the same day, so that's how long they live. That's good. Do we know the inverse of that compared to other communities? So in North Tulsa, this is the Heights, and this is South Side. So if both groups had a baby, if we were in Tulsa, had a baby today, this baby is expected, because of the location that they live, expected to die 11 years faster than this side of town right here. Obesity, stroke, high blood pressure, cholesterol. Now trauma is a part of the adult childhood ACE scores. Say it again. Bad teeth, yeah, dental. Kids being on free and reduced breakfast and lunch, it's great, but sometimes the kids don't eat it. So then they wait for the after school program to feed them snacks, which I was in one. You get the Doritos and Cheetos after school with a little drink, a little juice box, and a granola bar. They give you a banana, but I don't like bananas, so I would have to barter for an apple. Trauma. Okay? So then all of a sudden, you have that, and then you go home and mom or sister can't cook meals, so it's ramen noodles, or back then when it really was a $1 menu, it was easier to go get you a little hamburger french fry. And then the kids sit in school, and then we wonder why, little AJ, is something wrong with you? No, the child is actually just nutrient deficient. And all of a sudden, they can get past, they go to the next level, and it's compound interest in the negative way. A nutrient deficient child now all of a sudden has a bad gut. The bad gut affects the way that you think. What's wrong with the child's test scores? AJ, what's wrong with your test scores? Nutrient deficient. Full on nothing, but missing everything. These are the cycles of generational poverty that we must collectively, there is not one answer. Like, there's no reason why by this time next year, you guys shouldn't have more than one, even if its name is not Oasis, that there shouldn't be, there's no reason why there shouldn't be multiple after a conference like this, when you got mental health, when you got public health, when you got safety, when you got foundations, when you have leadership involved. There should be no reason why for someone to say, what's the number of dollars in the community CDBG, community block development funds that we have? How many TIFs, tax incentives, can we create? Where are the foundations in these communities or businesses that say, hey, we want a public-private partnership because we believe in food deserts? Then someone in the medical, eye care, health care, mental health, whatever it is, behaviors, dental, all coming together, and all of a sudden, the trajectory of Arkansas is now people are living 10 years, 11 years longer because a group has made a decision to come together to reach people. What's going to happen with the information today? Is it just going to be notes that are talked about in a staff meeting, or is it going to be something, let's make a significant step, everybody say step, in order to change and break the cycle of generational poverty in our communities? Because whether it's the Heights or the South Side, the Heights will thrive even more when the South Side thrives, and vice versa. But instead of focusing on where people live, man, how do we focus on, raising the whole tide? Because then all the ships go up. Then the boys and girls that are maybe counted out, all of a sudden, they're different because someone cares. We opened up Oasis because we care. We have partnerships because we care. We continue to work some weeks over 100-hour weeks because we care. Dollar General is a $32.8 billion business, most of which are in underserved and rural communities. And part of their plan is over the next 3 years to add 5,000 more stores. Now you think about that, a business growing is very good. We want Oasis is growing. We're grateful for that. But when you think about the inverse of that, it's a publicly traded company, and people get paid, however the trade works, people get paid as a direct correlation of food deserts being opened, of the continuation or the elongation of food deserts. So when you think about that, it's kind of a little pit comes in your stomach, because it's like, man, those are real people. And if the goal, if they had grocery stores, great. What am I saying? You're called to make a difference. We're grateful to be here and to give any information that we can to your leadership, and working with Kathy and Lance and the Hunger Free Alliance. And what's our other group from Arkansas that came to Tulsa? Something concept. See, they give them some snaps too. Boy, she got a good concept. I don't know what it is, but it's good. And no, she was the one that originally connected us. The grocery industry and the food co-op space, there's so much opportunity for us to collaborate, to change the trajectory. We don't know what's going in our food today. Chicken, even the vegetables. There's things that, for the next 40 or 50 years, we want to change that for our kids and our kids' kids. But it's about working together. I'll close with this. Mother Teresa said, I can do things that you cannot. You can do things that I cannot. And together, everybody say together. Say it again, together. Together we can do great things. We're 2.5 years old. We're now in the black, meaning we're profitable in an area where people have said, you'll never be successful. Come on. But again, the ecosystem doesn't revolve around me. It's built around the team, around the educators, around the innovators, and just giving people an opportunity. My name is AJ, and it's an honor to serve you. Thank you guys for being here and coming to this event.
Do you have any questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, suggestions for Mr. AJ? All right, let's give him one more round of applause. Thank you so much. So we've come to our final panel of the session for today. And I want to let you know that the Little Rock Food Desert Task Force, which I'm a member of, took a trip to the new Edwards Cash Saver on Colonel Glenn Road just a couple of months ago. And if you haven't been, I encourage you to go there. It's a beautiful store that when a large national chain closed, Edwards Food Giant took over. And today we are fortunate to hear from Edwards Food Giant Vice President Gary Proffitt with questions directed by Steve Good, who is the Executive Director of the Arkansas Grocers and Retail Merchants Association. So let's give an applause for Mr. Good and Mr. Edwards, Mr. Proffitt as they come. And they are making their way in. Yes. Give them one more round as they come. Yes.
Good afternoon. How are y'all today? Good. Hey, is AJ still in here or has he already stepped out? Let me tell you something. As a fellow retailer, I own some supermarkets. Y'all need to give that guy another round of applause. That's a, you want to talk about making a difference, buddy? That's the way you make a difference right there. Thank you very much. That's great work y'all are doing in Tulsa.
I think and he has a keen understanding of how hard this business is how hard they are to operate on a day-to-day business cycle, and then the challenges that you come against. We don't buy our products as cheap as Walmart and Kroger do. They have inherent things in their operations, the volume that they buy in. And so we have to overcome that, doing that. And congratulations, thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, my name is Steve Good, and I am a retailer. I own a couple of supermarkets in north central Arkansas, but I'm in Little Rock every day with a lobbying consulting company. And one of my clients is the Arkansas Grocers and Retail Merchants Association. I'm the executive director for them. And this is my good friend Gary Proffitt, and he is the executive vice president for the GES group, which operates the Edwards Food Giant and Edwards Cash Saver stores. I'm going to take just about a 30-second deal, though, and I'm going to tell you, I grew up in the grocery business. The day I turned 16, I started at the Food for Less at Baseline and Geyer Springs Road. So I don't know if any of y'all live in Southwest Little Rock, but I may have served you there before. Worked for about 7 different store managers, and the absolute best store manager that I ever worked for as I was growing up through high school and college was this guy right here. He made me the retailer that I am today. And you want to talk about a guy that does the grocery business right, Gary Proffitt and the Edwards Food Giant folks do the grocery business, and Cash Saver folks do the grocery business right. So again, Gary Proffitt with Edwards, GES, Cash Savers, and Food Giants. Gary, you've been with Edwards for over 20 years and in the grocery business your entire career. In the last couple of years, Edwards has opened several stores in the state. Can you talk to us a little bit about why and how y'all have been successful?
one of the things that we've been in the grocery business since 1959. We've operated supermarkets, and that's what we do. We operate supermarkets. We have another company that operates one convenience store, but the way we earn our living is operating supermarkets. And Oral Edwards started the company, and his son today, Steve Edwards, he lives in Marianna, Arkansas. And so we're kind of a split up company. I've got an office in Little Rock, Steve Edwards got an office in Marianna, and then we have another VP that's in Harrisburg. And so we're all over the state operating this one supermarket chain. But we come from East Arkansas. We're Marianna, Forest City, Brinkley, Harrisburg. And when the opportunity for us to come into Little Rock happened about 14 years ago, we were ready. We had the expertise to do that. We were ready to do that. We had the knowledge and the way to merchandise stores. And so the first store that we opened was 14 years ago. It was on Main Street. And that kind of opened the door for us to get into the Little Rock market. I live in Cabot. So like Steve, I operated Food 4 Less stores in the Little Rock market. So I had been around that market all my life and have been in the supermarket business either on the wholesale or the retail side my whole career. And that helped by getting a store at Main Street. And then from there, we opened Otter Creek and Baseline and till today, and the latest store that we've opened on Colonel Glenn. We just, the thing that our associates know their customers, and they have, the stores are merchandised, and it's the thing that does give us an advantage over our competitors that we were talking about a while ago, is that we merchandise to the neighborhoods. Our associates know their customers, and we want the cuts of meats that they want. We want to have them in the stores, and we want to operate no matter where we're operating. We expect to operate, and we mess up from time to time, and everybody does, but we expect our stores to be clean and well-stocked every day, no matter where we operate.
Well, Gary, speaking of that, a few months ago, y'all opened a store, a Cash Saver store on Colonel Glenn in Little Rock, where a national chain had actually pulled out and closed. It's an absolutely incredible store. If y'all have not been in it, I'd invite you to go over there to that Colonel Glenn store. It's got a great meat section, a great produce section, a large deli counter with a big smoker in it, and a unique aspect of that store is your what?
The taqueria.
They've got a taqueria that makes fresh tortilla shells every day, which is phenomenal. Why were y'all willing to go in that space, Gary, that another store had just pulled out of?
Well, I mean, being in the Little Rock, and I call it Little Rock Metro because we operate from Bryant to Beebe, basically, and I would consider that to be the Metro. We operate Jacksonville and North Little Rock. And Jacksonville and North Little Rock are Cash Savers. The Colonel Glenn store is a Cash Saver. And we just felt like that they were leaving a void in the community that we could fill, and we could offer things that they haven't offered in the past, and we would be able to spend quite a bit of money on that location and bring it up to where it's a location that people would be proud to come in and shop. And so we just felt like it was a great opportunity for our company, and it has been a great opportunity for our company. It is a good location, and we're proud to be there.
Excellent. We're going to play a little game real quick. Kathy, if you don't mind, I'm going to indulge the audience with a little game. I want everybody to stand up real quick. We're going to talk about national averages. All right, real quick. If you think the national average for the average supermarket makes 25% or more net profit, 25% or more net profit, I want you to sit down. If we make 25% or more net profit, I want you to sit down. Okay? How about 20% or more? Sit down. How about 10%? Everybody makes 10%. You think we make 10% in the grocery store? Sit down. Okay. How about 9%? We're getting warmer, aren't we? Or y'all all may be wrong. We may already have passed that number. How about 5%? Surely supermarkets make at least 5% in the grocery store. Sit down if you think we make 5%. How about 4? 3, 2, 1. Okay. Those of you that guessed 1, you're right. The average supermarket in America today, net profits 1%. So Gary, that leads me to a question. Most people in this room, you know, and look, y'all are better than the traditional audience thinks supermarkets make 25% or more, by the way. So y'all at least know your facts. But Gary, this crowd knows that the traditional supermarket doesn't operate on a high profit margin. You know, most in this room know that we have low profit margins, high labor costs, and there are other barriers to open brick and mortar stores. Gary, can you talk about, without divulging trade secrets that Edwards has, the challenges to open a grocery store in today's world and economy?
Well, I mean, in today's world, one of the, COVID accelerated it, was labor is a challenge in keeping employees. And, you know, you look at the state of Arkansas, we have an $11 minimum wage. And I tell you, we don't pay $11 on the starting wage. If we did, we wouldn't have anyone in the stores today. So that's a challenge, and that's an expense. Just like insurance, post-COVID insurance is unbelievable, and then just the capital expense that's required. The location, and we keep talking about Colonel Glenn. It's the latest store that we opened. We're opening a location in North Little Rock. It'll be open around the 1st of February. In that location, we just got through with the bidding process, and the amount that we typically spend to remodel and put inventory in a store and get staffing in is going to be about 40% more than we spent at Colonel Glenn. And we opened Colonel Glenn March 8th. So in
less than a year, our expense of opening the newest location is going to be almost 40% more than we've been spending. And so those kind of things are a challenge. It causes with the Colonel Glenn location is 48,000 square feet. So the amount of capital it takes to put a location like that in, and so it requires us to have a 3 to 5 mile footprint. We need to draw to that location for 3 to 5 miles, or it won't be successful. And we do a lot of work on the front end to do surveys and make sure that, you know, that we're making as much of an educated decision as we can, that what we think is what is going to actually happen when we get the location open. So between today, the capital expense of doing it, of getting equipment, that equipment is more than it's ever been, and the price of equipment is accelerating, and the lead time on equipment, the location in North Little Rock requires, supermarkets require a lot of electricity. And so the electrical panels are big, and we call it switchgear. And the main piece of switchgear to run the store in North Little Rock, the lead time is 2 years. So that caused us to have to go out to a secondary market and buy switchgear used, which we paid twice the amount of money for, but we had to cut that lead time down. We can't wait 2 years to get that open. And those things, all of that combined, supermarkets are capital expense intensive. Yep. Gary, to our community leaders that may be here with us this afternoon, what advice would you give them as they try to figure out what supermarket model or what model in particular to best serve the food deserts in their community? What advice would you give them?
From where my viewpoint, I know how we operate and the things that it takes for us to operate on a daily basis. And the biggest thing that we do, me and the team of directors that I have with me, and primarily I have a meat director and a deli director and a produce director that report to me. And the day in, day out, we continually are trying to cut expenses to try to drive down our expenses and keep it to where we can operate the Cash Savers at the Cash Saver stores operate at a thin margin. And that's what we do every day. The biggest challenge that we had at Colonel Glenn, and I'd like to, is public transportation. It was, if the city, to me, that would be a good spend if they could come up with a way to fund public transportation. We had to, we wanted to operate a night crew in that store because the amount of volume that it's doing, and because the labor force could not get to the store before 6 o'clock in the morning, we had to adjust our operation. We stock the store during the day, right. And it's because of the lack of transportation, our labor force couldn't get to the store.
More routes, longer hours would be a help.
It would be a broader schedule and more buses on the route.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, very good. Gary, is there anything else that you'd like to add to our discussion today?
Just that we're proud to be a part of Little Rock. We're happy to be in this community and appreciate our customers. And for the folks that are in here that shop with us, I want to thank you for shopping, whether it's Edwards Food Giant or Edwards Cash Saver. And if there's anything I can do, let me know.
Very, very good. Any questions for me before we get out of here? Well, thank y'all very much for your time.
We do have one question. This lovely young lady is making her way to the microphone.
Gotcha. Gary, thank you very much for this discussion today, and we want to wish Edwards continued success.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I can hear you.
I just wanted to ask all day about produce that is less than perfect. Everybody wants the perfect tomato, the apples that are not lopsided, the cabbage leaves are all peeled off so it's pretty. I lived in another city that sold a commercial and viable place, sold produce that was less than perfect for like half the price of what you want in your, if you go to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, or
Sure.
all just perfect, beautiful. But there's a lot of produce that's perfectly good food that's not pretty. Where can we buy that? Who's going to sell that? It has to be from the wholesale level.
Yeah. And, to my knowledge, there's not anybody in Little Rock doing that today. I think what you see a lot of retailers in Arkansas do is, if you get a 1 pound thing of strawberries, especially when strawberries are in season, they'll turn on you pretty quick. They'll mold pretty quick. So I think what you see a lot of retailers do is they'll make fruit cups. They'll take some shatter, what we call grapes that are not on the stem. They'll take grape shatter. They'll take the good strawberries that were out of that container, and then they'll just make a fruit cup out of it. I've seen retailers also do veggie trays the same way. If a whole broccoli part of it is bad, they'll take the good part off of it, the good heads off the florets, and some bell peppers, some carrots, and create a veggie tray. So I don't know of anybody in this market that's selling that. There actually is a national group that's trying to start that, but I've not seen anybody in Arkansas do that. So great question though. Yes, ma'am. I got you.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, suggestions? Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Sure. I think her question was, to help on profit margins in grocery stores, do some people rent out locations in their stores to pharmacies or maybe smoke shops that smoke their own meat and be able to sell? Edwards actually does that. Y'all got Cornerstone pharmacies in your stores, some of them?
Cornerstone, and that basically, it does add to it. It reduces, we look at it like it reduces our rent payment each month. And by the way, the Colonel Glenn store, the Cornerstone Pharmacy opened in it last week. And so,
and pharmacies and grocery stores are great partners.
We figured out years ago we're not very good pharmacists.
Yeah.
We need to let somebody else do that.
Agree. Well, thank y'all for being here today, and thank you for your support of Arkansas retailers and grocers. We greatly appreciate it. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. So, as I mentioned earlier, the City of Little Rock has a food desert task force, of which I'm a member of, appointed by Mayor Frank Scott Jr. about 6 months ago. Mayor Scott couldn't be with us today, but he did send a video message describing the work that's been done thus far. So please point your directions to the screens.
Hi, I'm Little Rock Mayor Frank Scott Jr. Thank you for attending our inaugural Food Desert Summit. It's a priority of my administration to ensure all Little Rock residents have access to fresh, nutritious foods. To do that, we must collaborate to find ways to eliminate food deserts across our entire community. After the White House challenged municipalities to address food insecurities in their city, the Little Rock Board of Directors and I dedicated more than $1 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds to the issue. After which, I established a Food Desert Task Force to research the problem and identify possible solutions. My appreciation goes to Vice Mayor Kathy Webb, who was chairman of the Food Desert Task Force and is with you today. Vice Mayor Webb also co-chaired the State Food Desert Working Group last year along with Kenya Eddings. The Little Rock Task Force was composed of stakeholders from across the city. They have convened over the past 8 months along with members of my staff to identify areas of our city that should be considered food deserts. They then prepared a comprehensive survey to take to neighborhoods associations, community groups, and others to get critical feedback from area residents. Through the process, we've learned that any project should be community-driven and that one size does not necessarily fit all. The great thing about this, though, it is that we still continue to learn during this process. With more than 400 surveys collected over the last few weeks, we've gathered information, and the task force will be ready to present its final recommendations soon. We hope to move forward to take actions on those recommendations later this fall. During this summit, you're hearing more about information of the 2 lessons that I've already learned. And there's even more advice if you're just starting the process. For example, a brick and mortar store isn't the only way to bring fresh foods to your community. And it takes some time to do things right. Please do not be discouraged. The end result is worth it to both you and your residents. Engage your communities. Make sure they're active participants. Take a stand and take tips to learn the best practices. You'll be better for it. I'm excited about the possibilities before us. I hope you'll reach out to some of our task force members to keep up with the progress that we're experiencing right now here in the city of Little Rock. Thanks for all the time that you've given your attention to today as we all strive to end food insecurity once and for all.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Have you guys enjoyed today? Have you learned a lot? Yes. So, as was mentioned, we are members of the Little Rock, City of Little Rock Food Desert Task Force. And if your community is interested in creating one, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, to Vice Mayor Kathy Webb, or any members of the City of Little Rock Food Desert Task Force. So, What an awesome day we've had today, learning from each other about innovative ways to address food deserts and access to healthy food. And so just to recap, we heard from Roshan Austin of Memphis and learned about her group's mobile grocery store. We also learned from Gloria Dickerson, Chiquita Fountain, and Kevin Coogan of Mississippi about alternatives to brick and mortar through community-based online ordering. We also learned from Jimmy Wright of Atlanta about community-based online ordering, as well as he was our keynote speaker. We further learned from the Edwards Cash Saver team about their model and the impact that it's made on the city in addressing the need, as well as Mr. A.J. Johnson from Oklahoma, who talked about his Oasis model. As mentioned earlier and pretty much demonstrated throughout the day today, there is no one-size-fits-all solution to the problem of food deserts. We learned that ideas are great, but it takes funding to put those ideas into action. So where do we go from here? The much needed work of learning from our neighbors near and far, what they've done to address food deserts, taking it back to our respective communities to see how those examples today can serve as a template is an important next step. We know that in order to do this important work, sometimes capacity building is needed. To help stand in the gap, the Arkansas Minority Health Commission is pleased to announce a request for application for 4 grants up to $10,000 each to be awarded to communities to provide the support that they need to address food deserts. It is our hope that these grants will provide much needed funding to give birth to action, bringing partners together to support an initial investment or perhaps complete projects that were already in progress in an effort to transform a food access project from idea to reality. Cities, municipalities, and nonprofits are eligible to apply for the funds to address food deserts in their respective communities. It might be convening a task force that you may need, conducting a needs or community assessment, investing in technology or even equipment to get the job done. Our RFA represents an opportunity not just for funding, but for collaboration, innovation, and progress. It's a call to action for organizations, both established and grassroots, to come forward to create solutions to address this pressing issue. It's a challenge to governments, businesses, and community leaders to work together to create lasting change. It's an opportunity to promote better health, to reduce the burden of chronic disease, and to improve the overall quality of life for our fellow Arkansans. I urge all potential applicants to think creatively and boldly about how they can contribute to the fight against food deserts. We are not looking for one-size-fits-all solutions because that does not exist, but rather innovative approaches that can be tailored to the unique needs and challenges of each community. The RFA will go live soon on the Arkansas Department of Health's website. Stay tuned for the announcement also on the Arkansas Hunger Relief's website and their social media channels, as well as ours. We'll also be sending an announcement through the Municipal League's Communications Department so everyone will know that this funding opportunity is available. There's an African proverb that states, if you want to travel fast, travel alone. But if you want to travel far, travel together. On behalf of the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance, the City of Little Rock, Hope Credit Union, Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield, your Arkansas Minority Health Commission team, and its Board of Commissioners, we want to thank you for being on this journey with us, whether it's from day one or joining us today. Thank you for investing your time, your talents, as well as your treasures to help address the issue and to solve food deserts in Arkansas. At this time, I'd like to turn it back over to our fearless leader, Vice Mayor Webb. Is she still on? She is there. Kathy, take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. You've done a fantastic job, and I hope everybody's excited about that grant opportunity. I think that's a perfect way to bring everything together. Just a final reminder that my takeaways from the day: don't be afraid of technology. Do our market analysis, and we've got to have community buy-in. And those grants that you're making available, Kenya, will certainly help communities do those things. So to city staff who worked so hard, to all the speakers, and to the Hunger Relief Alliance staff who are still standing, thank you so much, and travel safely, everybody.
Thank you all. That's going to do it for today. Please continue to network and enjoy the rest of your day. Safe travels home.